Harry's Wife, Part 101.29. Was Hug Girl planted? Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Many of you have watched the material that arose from the Windsor Walkabout, which provided us with a plethora of opportunities to understand more about Harry's wife's narcissism in action, whether it was her reactions to being snubbed by the trio, including Blue Top Woman, whether it was enabling you to understand more with regard to the Princess of Wales' slaying of her, her reactions and involvement with the crowd, her responses towards Prince William, the continued use of the grip of doom appertaining to Prince Harry. It really was a complete treasure trove of material to enable you to understand the various facets of narcissism and, of course, how it was largely a difficult day for Harry's wife for reasons that I've explained previously. I also detailed an excerpt with regard to the lady that provided a hug to Harry's wife. It's been suggested that this was a plant, that this individual was put there in order to make Harry's wife look good. Well, I'm going to leave it to you to make a determination as to whether you think that is correct or not. After all, we don't have any direct evidence to confirm that one way or another, but you can, of course, draw your own conclusions from what you see. I know elsewhere people have formed the view that she was a plant. What I'm going to do is show you the footage now. You can watch it, make your own determinations about it. Now, I've analysed elsewhere the interaction with regard to what Harry's wife is receiving from it and what's actually going on. But let's address the question of planting somebody. As I say, you can determine whether you think she's a plant or not. I'm going to address this question. Would a narcissist do such an act? And if so, why? But first, here comes the excerpt.
Obviously shaking as many hands as possible, reaching out and grabbing those bouquets of flowers. We can see Meghan there handing over a bouquet. And what's been fascinating for me to watch, knowing the teams around them, knowing the Prince and Princess of Wales's team, at one point I saw one of their team go over to Meghan and say, "Would you like me to take those flowers from you?" I think there is this sense, look, we're welcoming Harry and Meghan. Whatever's been said, some of it said very recently, whatever's been said and said very publicly in the press.
So there you've seen the footage. Harry's wife talking to people on one side of the road. Then all of a sudden decides to turn, hands off the flowers, and I know, I'll walk right over here next to that security chap and, oh, hello, fancy seeing you here. Oh my goodness, it's Harry's wife. I'll look completely stunned and amazed, although everybody else around her doesn't because they've already seen her. And then teenage girl shakes hand and a little bit of chit-chat, back and forth, talking away, hand on the shoulder. How lovely to see you. Would you like a hug? Okay, yes, please. Hug takes place. Lady next with the sunglasses, filming away, covering her mouth, almost laughing to herself before later on snubbing. And then it's on to, of course, denim jacket lady. As stated, you can make your own mind up as to whether you think this was staged, whether she was planted there. It certainly has the smell of it, doesn't it? Why else would she suddenly walk across from one side to the other, and then the sort of, oh my goodness, it's you, whereas nobody else in the crowd reacts in that way. You could pass it off by saying, well, she's a young girl and she's a little bit overtaken by the fact that the Wicked Witch of the West has suddenly found herself not in the Wizard of Oz, but in Windsor. However, we don't have any direct evidence to confirm one thing or the other, but it certainly does raise the possibility. And as I say, I leave these things for you to determine. It's not my role to make a determination. What I do is explain the material as it presents itself through the lens of narcissism. I leave it to other channels to come up with their theories as to what might be going on, as to what the evidence might mean, where they look at certain things and determine, is that a mic pack or not? What I do is, for instance, if there is a suggestion that she's wired for sound, if that's correct, I explain, why would that be? And also, how likely would it be that a narcissist would behave that way? My role is to explain all of this vis-a-vis the world of narcissism. So, you can make a determination as to whether you believe Hug Girl was planted or not. But first of all, would a narcissist do this? Well, the short answer is yes. But also, it should be pointed out, in the interests of balance, that not just narcissists manage PR in this way. Many famous people, politicians, pop stars, etc., have a PR agency that will do things such as put favourable people in the crowd so that they receive a decent reception. They'll do such things as place favourable questioners in an audience so that certain questions are teed up for that particular politician or administrator to create a good impression. And often this manipulation comes not from the famous person themselves, but invariably those advising them. Of course, there then is the question of, well, why go along with it? Non-narcissists would do so because they're persuaded that it's a useful thing to do after all. They want to be elected. They want to be popular. They want people to buy tickets to whatever event it is that they are offering. And so normal people will often be persuaded to engage in this chicanery because they see it as massaging things for the greater good. There will be some people who would refuse to do it, standing by their morals and saying, no, I'm not going to handle the outcome, notwithstanding considerable pressure from their advisors who basically say, well, everybody else is doing it, you need to do so as well, otherwise you run the risk of losing. And indeed there'll be those that fall on their sword in that way, remaining true to their principles without necessarily being elected or selling what they wanted to sell, and so on and so forth. A narcissist, of course, would have no compunction at all in accepting such a proposal to massage the look of a situation. They'll either think of it themselves with more evolved narcissists, or in tandem with the suggestions made by their PR advisors go, yep, let's do that. The narcissist, of course, needs to assert control, and so the narcissist will say, if this is helping us get control, let's do it. Fuel needs to be obtained. A plant will give fuel and also will create the impression of other people around, oh, isn't she lovely and popular? And will influence, most likely, their views also. Furthermore, it allows the management of the facade. It portrays me as being loved, that people welcome me, that people want me, that people want to be with me and hug me. And therefore, not only is this something that a narcissist would do, it's also highly likely that someone such as Harry's wife would engage in this behaviour. For instance, we've seen it before at Bridgewater Hall, where it's understood that many of the people that attended there were students paid to turn up and behave themselves. Indeed, we heard in the footage that I analysed the American gentleman yelling, "Let's go," which seems a rather strange thing to be said unless he's there as a sort of crowd exciter. So as I state, it's not just narcissists that engage in this behaviour, but it is narcissists that are more likely to do it, have no concerns about doing so, and positively embrace the suggestion or suggest it themselves because it enables the achievement of the prime aims. Although, of course, Harry's wife, being an unaware narcissist, doesn't realise why she's doing it. She would just think, well, so many people have made me look bad. I'm made to do these things. I wouldn't choose to do it. You forced my hand in this regard. Again, the victim mentality, forcing her to take these extraordinary measures to negate the negativity that's been thrown against her. If you lot weren't such racist, hateful bigots, I wouldn't have to do this. It's highly likely this individual was a plant, because somebody such as Harry's wife would have a necessity of utilising this individual in this way. And it's done, as always, for the pursuit of the prime aims. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.